What if I told you that the most beautiful sunset in the world became someone's last breath? That paradise itself could become the stage for the most shocking betrayal you have ever heard. Visual, blood droplets on pristine white Santorini stone, contrasting against azure waters. Right now, as you watch this, someone somewhere is keeping a secret so devastating, so destructive, that it could obliterate everything they claim to love. Have you ever kept a secret so dark it could destroy everything you love? Have you ever looked at your partner and wondered what shadows they might be hiding behind their smile? Because what I am about to tell you happened in one of the most breathtaking places on Earth. Santorini, Greece. Those iconic white buildings perched on volcanic cliffs. Those sunsets that make your heart skip a beat. The kind of place where couples go to fall in love all over again. But this is not a love story. This is the story of Lena and Adrian Markovic, a couple who thought paradise could wash away their sins. They thought the endless blue of the Aegean Sea could drown their darkest secrets. They were wrong. Pine for emphasis. If you have ever been to Greece, or if true crime stories grip your soul the way they grip mine, hit that like button right now. And if you want to dive deep into cases that will make you question everything you think you know about human nature, subscribe and ring that notification bell, because you do not want to miss what comes next. Visual, sweeping views of Santorini transitioning to ominous shadows. Here is the problem with secrets. They grow, they fester, they poison everything they touch. And when you take those secrets to paradise, when you think distance and beauty can somehow cleanse what you have done, you are not running toward redemption, you are running toward destruction. Lena Markovic thought she had buried her past deep enough. She thought the millions she had stolen, the lives she had destroyed, the elaborate web of lies she had woven, could stay hidden forever. Her husband Adrian thought he could live with the cracks in their perfect facade. They both thought wrong. What happened on that cliff-top villa in September will shatter everything you believe about love, trust, and the lengths people will go to protect their lies. By the end of this story, you will understand why sometimes the most beautiful places on Earth become witness to the ugliest truths about human nature. Are you ready to discover what happens when paradise becomes a prison and when love becomes a weapon? Stay with me, because this journey into the darkest corners of the human heart starts right here, right now, on the sun-soaked cliffs of Santorini, where one couple's dream vacation became their final nightmare. September 3rd, 2023. The private helicopter touched down on the helipad of Villa Calypso, perched 800 feet above the Aegean Sea. Lena Markovic stepped out first, her designer heels clicking against the marble landing pad. 34 years old, with the kind of confidence that comes from years of getting exactly what she wants. Her dark hair caught the Mediterranean breeze as she surveyed their temporary kingdom. Adrian followed, 41 years old, his architect's eye already analyzing the clean lines of their accommodation. To anyone watching, they looked like the perfect power couple. Expensive luggage, matching smiles, the kind of effortless elegance that screams old money and good breeding. Visual, drone shots of the couple walking hand in hand toward the villa entrance. Villa Calypso was a masterpiece. 3 levels cascading down the cliff face like a frozen waterfall of white stone and glass. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered unobstructed views of the volcanic crater below. The infinity pool seemed to merge with the horizon, creating the illusion that you could swim straight into the sky. But look closer at the details. Security cameras tucked discreetly into every corner, reinforced glass that could withstand hurricane-force winds, emergency communication systems hidden within the elegant design. This was not just a luxury retreat, this was a fortress dressed as paradise. Their first evening began flawlessly. Adrian uncorked a bottle of champagne on the main terrace, while Lena arranged white roses in a crystal vase. The sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson, and for a moment they looked like any couple celebrating their love. Visual, close-up of champagne glasses clinking, but focus shifts to Lena's phone buzzing repeatedly on the table. Then the messages started. Buzz. Buzz. Lena's phone vibrated against the marble table with mechanical persistence. Each notification made her shoulders tense just a fraction more. She would glance at the screen, her face flickering between annoyance and something deeper, something that looked suspiciously like fear. Work again? Adrian asked, his voice carrying that particular edge husbands develop when they suspect they are not getting the whole truth. Nothing important, Lena replied, but her fingers moved quickly across the screen. deleting messages before Adrian could catch even a glimpse. Adrian Hartwell, Markovic, British father, Greek mother, a man who built his reputation designing homes for the ultra-wealthy, places where privacy was not just desired but absolutely essential. He understood the value of secrets, both architectural and personal, which made it all the more disturbing that his own wife was clearly keeping something from him. Lena Svetlana Markovic, born in Belgrade but educated in London's finest financial institutions, art dealer to collectors, who preferred anonymity. She had built her career on discretion, on knowing which questions never to ask, and which conversations never happened. Visual, split screen showing their perfect dinner setup against the stunning sunset, contrasted with extreme close-ups of Lena's nervous gestures. As the evening progressed, the messages continued. Each buzz created a tiny crack in their perfect facade. Adrian's jaw tightened. Lena's laugh became just a little too bright, a little too forced. The villa's beauty remained constant. Gentle waves lapped against the rocks far below. Stars emerged one by one in the darkening sky. But inside the walls of their paradise, something was shifting. By 10 o'clock that night, the couple who had arrived looking like magazine models were sitting in silence, separated by more than just the width of their marble dining table. The cracks in paradise had begun to show. The second day started with coffee and croissants on the terrace. Lena seemed more relaxed, her phone finally silent. Adrian allowed himself to believe that whatever storm had been building the night before had passed. He was wrong. While Lena showered, Adrian decided to charge his laptop using her travel adapter. Her bag was open on the bed, contents scattered from the previous night's frantic search for her phone charger. As he reached for the adapter, a folder slipped out, spilling documents across the white sheets. Visual, papers floating in slow motion, settling on pristine bed linens. Adrian's architect's eye was trained to notice details, patterns, structural integrity. What he saw in those documents made his blood freeze. Bank statements, transfer records, names he recognized from London's elite art world, and amounts that made his head spin. £12 million. Transferred in increments over 18 months, all bearing Lena's authorization codes. Visual, close-up of damning financial records, numbers highlighting the massive theft. His hands shook as he read. This was not just money. This was destruction on an industrial scale. Retirement funds emptied, charitable foundations gutted. Families who had trusted Lena with their life savings, left with nothing but worthless promises. The shower was still running. Adrian had maybe 5 minutes before Lena emerged. 5 minutes to understand how his wife had become a financial predator. Flashback sequence begins. 2 years earlier, in a glass-walled conference room in central London, Lena sat across from Mr. Harrison Whitfield, 83 years old, recently widowed, seeking someone to help manage his late wife's art collection. His hands trembled as he signed the authorization forms that would give Lena access to his accounts. You understand, Miss Markovic, this collection represents 50 years of love between my wife and myself. I trust you to honor that. Lena's smile was warm, professional, completely convincing. Mr. Whitfield, your wife's legacy is safe with me. I promise you that. Within a week, £3 million had vanished from his accounts, redirected through shell companies that existed only on paper. Mr. Whitfield died 6 months later, never knowing he had spent his final days in poverty while his trusted art dealer bought luxury homes across Europe. Flashback ends. Adrian's stomach churned as the pieces fell into place. Their London penthouse, this Santorini vacation, her designer wardrobe, every luxury in their life was built on theft and betrayal. But there was more. His own bank statements, tucked beneath Lena's documents, told a different story. His architectural firm was hemorrhaging money. 3 major projects had fallen through in the past year. His business account showed a balance that would not cover next month's office rent. The text messages from his business partner had become increasingly desperate. Adrian, we need to talk. The creditors are asking questions. Where are you? Visual, split screen showing Lena's stolen millions versus Adrian's mounting debts. His prestigious career was crumbling. The man who designed homes for billionaires could not afford his own mortgage payments. The weight of financial failure pressed down on him like the Mediterranean heat. When Lena emerged from the bathroom, towel wrapped around her hair, she found Adrian sitting on the bed surrounded by evidence of her crimes. Adrian, her voice was carefully neutral, but her eyes darted to the papers in his hands. Who is Harrison Whitfield? He asked quietly. The color drained from her face. Adrian, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why you stole £12 million from elderly clients who trusted you? Can you explain why you let me believe we were successful while you were robbing people of their life savings? Second CTA moment. Stop for a moment. What would you do if you discovered this about your partner? If everything you believed about your life together was built on lies and stolen money? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, because what happened next will test every boundary of human emotion. The rest of that day passed in a fog of accusations and denials. By sunset, their paradise had become a battlefield where love and betrayal circled each other like wounded animals. The stage was set for a confrontation that would end in blood. September 5th, 12:47 in the morning. The villa was bathed in silver moonlight, casting sharp shadows across the marble terrace. Adrian stood at the railing, gripping the stone so tightly his knuckles had turned white. Below him, the Aegean Sea crashed against the volcanic rocks 800 feet down. Lena emerged from the villa, a bottle of wine in her hand, and desperation in her eyes. She had spent the last 4 hours trying to craft an explanation that could salvage their marriage. But how do you explain away £12 million in stolen money? Adrian, please, come inside. We can work through this. He turned to face her, and she saw something in his expression that made her blood freeze. This was not anger anymore. This was something far more dangerous. This was a man who had watched his entire world collapse in the span of 24 hours. Work through this. His voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried across the terrace like a blade. Lena, you destroyed families. You stole from widows and orphans. You built our entire life on blood money. Those people had more than they needed. Harrison Whitfield died alone because of you. Adrian's voice exploded across the night. His children refused to speak to him because they thought he had gambled away their inheritance. You killed that man as surely as if you had put a gun to his head. Visual, extreme close-up of their faces in the moonlight, showing raw emotion. Lena set the wine bottle down with shaking hands. You think you are innocent in this? Your firm is bankrupt, Adrian. Your precious reputation is built on projects you cannot afford to complete. We needed that money. We needed it, or you wanted it. Adrian stepped closer, his shadow falling across her face. Do you know what I discovered today? My business partner has been covering for me for months. He has been using his own savings to pay our employees because he thought I was having a breakdown. While you were living like a queen on stolen money, good people were suffering because of my failures. The words hung in the air between them like a death sentence. So what happens now, Lena? Do we run? Do we disappear to some country without extradition laws? Do we spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders? Lena's composure finally cracked. Yes, that is exactly what we do. People like us, we do not go to prison, Adrian. We survive, we adapt, we find a way to win. People like us? Adrian laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. There is no us anymore. There never was an us. Just you and your lies and everyone stupid enough to believe them. He turned back toward the railing, as if he could no longer bear to look at her. I am calling the police in the morning. I am turning over every document, every bank record, every piece of evidence. Those families deserve justice. Visual. The camera pulls back to show the vastness of the drop below them. No. Lena's voice was ice cold. You are not. Adrian spun around just in time to see her rushing toward him. The wine bottle was no longer in her hand. It was raised above her head like a weapon.
Lena, no!
The bottle connected with his skull with a sickening crack. Adrian staggered backward, blood streaming down his face, his hands reaching desperately for the railing behind him. For a moment, time stopped. His eyes met hers across the distance, and she saw in them not anger, but profound sadness. The look of a man watching the woman he loved reveal herself as a monster. His hands found the stone railing, but his knees buckled. The blow had been harder than Lena intended. Adrian's grip loosened, his body tilting backward over the edge.
Adrian!
But it was too late. Gravity claimed him, and he fell into the darkness below, his scream swallowed by the roar of the waves. Visual. Lena alone on the terrace, moonlight illuminating her horrified face. For 30 seconds, Lena stood frozen, staring at the spot where her husband had been. Then survival instinct kicked in. She grabbed the wine bottle, now cracked and stained with blood, and hurled it over the cliff. She ran to the outdoor shower and washed Adrian's blood from her hands and arms. She changed clothes, burning the blood-stained dress in the villa's fireplace. By 3 in the morning, Lena Markovic was practicing her performance. The grieving widow, the tragic accident, the story that would save her life. 7:30 in the morning. The call came into the Santorini police station as the sun was painting the island gold. A tourist had spotted something at the base of the cliffs near Villa Calypso, something that did not belong in paradise. Detective Nikos Papadakis had been working these islands for 23 years. He had seen overdoses disguised as suicides, domestic violence covered up as accidents, and enough tourist mishaps to fill a library. But when he stood over Adrian Markovic's broken body, something felt wrong. Visual, Detective Papadakis crouching beside the body, studying the scene with experienced eyes. Papadakis was 51 years old, graying at the temples, with the kind of methodical patience that comes from decades of watching people lie to his face. He had learned to read crime scenes like ancient Greek texts, finding meaning in every detail. "Mrs. Markovic," he said gently, finding Lena on the villa's main terrace. She was wearing a black dress, her eyes red from what appeared to be hours of crying. "I am very sorry for your loss. I need to ask you some questions." Lena's performance was flawless. She explained how Adrian had been drinking heavily since their arrival, how he had become increasingly agitated about work pressures, how he had gone out to the terrace around midnight for fresh air. "I heard a scream," she whispered, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "By the time I got outside, he was gone. I think he must have lost his balance." The story was simple, tragic, completely believable, except for the blood spatter pattern on the terrace railing. Visual, forensic team examining microscopic evidence. Maria Costaglou, the island's forensic specialist, found traces of blood 18 inches higher than where someone Adrian's height would impact if he had simply fallen. The pattern suggested a blunt force trauma to the head before the fall, not after. Then there was the missing wine bottle. Lena claimed they had been sharing a bottle of white wine during dinner, but no bottle was found anywhere on the property. The villa's sophisticated security system had mysteriously malfunctioned between midnight and 3 in the morning, leaving no video evidence of the critical hours. The local community was divided. Dimitris, the villa's caretaker, had heard raised voices on both nights the couple had been there. But Santorini's tourism industry was worth hundreds of millions of euros annually, and a murder investigation would damage the island's reputation. "We need to be careful," Mayor Alexios Petrou warned Detective Papadakis privately. "These people bring money to our island. Are we certain this was not just a tragic accident?" But Papadakis was not a man who bent to political pressure. He had taken an oath to serve justice, not the tourism board. Visual, detective making notes while interviewing various witnesses. On the 3rd day of investigation, the breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Adrian's phone, recovered from his jacket pocket, contained deleted text messages that had been professionally restored by Athens' cybercrimes unit. The messages revealed Adrian's discovery of Lena's financial crimes. More damaging still, they showed his intention to contact authorities upon returning to London. The final message, sent just 20 minutes before his death, was addressed to his business partner. "Have discovered something terrible about Lena. Will explain everything when I return. If something happens to me, check her financial records." 3rd CTA moment. This revelation changed everything. Share this video if this development shocked you as much as it shocked me. And in the comments, tell me what you think really happened on that terrace. Was this a crime of passion, or was Lena always planning to silence her husband permanently? When Detective Papadakis confronted Lena with this evidence, her carefully constructed facade began to crumble. Her lawyer arrived from Athens within hours, but the damage was done. The forensic evidence told a story that contradicted every word of her testimony. The blood patterns, the missing weapon, the convenient technology failure, and now the digital evidence of motive created a web of proof that even the most skilled defense attorney would struggle to challenge. Paradise had become a crime scene, and Lena Markovic's perfect performance was about to face its final curtain call. September 10th, 5 days after Adrian Markovic's death. The evidence against Lena had become overwhelming, but she maintained her innocence with the skill of someone who had been lying professionally for years. Detective Papadakis sat across from her in the sterile interview room of the Santorini police station. Between them lay photographs, bank records, forensic reports, and Adrian's recovered phone messages. The weight of evidence could have crushed a mountain, yet Lena still insisted her husband's death was a tragic accident. "Mrs. Markovic," Papadakis said quietly, "we have blood evidence placing you at the scene during the altercation. We have financial records proving your husband discovered your crimes. We have his final message stating his intention to expose you. What more do you need to tell us the truth?" Lena's lawyer, a sharp-dressed man from Athens, leaned forward. "My client has been cooperative throughout this investigation. Speculation and circumstantial evidence do not constitute proof of murder." Visual, close-up of Lena's hands, no longer steady, fidgeting with her wedding ring. But Papadakis had one final piece of evidence. The forensic team had found something in the villa's fireplace. Fabric fibers, burned but not completely destroyed, that matched the dress Lena claimed to have been wearing when she discovered Adrian's disappearance. DNA analysis revealed traces of Adrian's blood on those fibers. "You burned the dress you were wearing when you killed your husband," Papadakis stated. "You thought fire would destroy all evidence, but science is more persistent than flames." For the first time since the investigation began, Lena's composure cracked completely. Her hands trembled, her breathing became shallow. The mask she had worn for years finally slipped away. "He was going to destroy everything," she whispered. "Everything I had built, everything I had worked for. Those people I took money from, they had more than they needed. But Adrian, he was going to make me give it back. He was going to make me face consequences for choices I made to survive." Visual, the interview room, showing Lena's final breakdown. "So you killed him," Papadakis said. "It was not a question. I hit him, once. I just wanted him to stop talking, to stop threatening to ruin us both. I never intended for him to fall." The confession was recorded, witnessed, and legally binding. Lena Markovich was formally charged with the murder of Adrian Hartwell Markovich. The news spread through Santorini like wildfire. The tourism board scrambled to control the narrative, but social media had already seized the story. Villa Calypso was sealed as a crime scene. Local businesses that depended on luxury tourism worried about the long-term impact. Dimitris, the villa caretaker, spoke to reporters with tears in his eyes. "This island has welcomed visitors for thousands of years. We offer them beauty, peace, sanctuary. To have our hospitality repaid with violence and lies, it breaks our hearts." Visual, Lena being led away in handcuffs, the beautiful Santorini landscape behind her. 3 months later, in an Athens courtroom, Lena Markovich was sentenced to 25 years in prison for murder and an additional 15 years for financial fraud. The families she had robbed would never recover their losses completely, but justice had been served. The villa where Adrian died remained empty. No amount of cleaning could wash away the stain of what had happened there. Paradise had been permanently marked by greed, betrayal, and violence. Detective Papadakis returned to his normal duties, but the case haunted him. In 23 years of police work, he had learned that humans were capable of terrible things. But the calculated coldness of Lena's actions, the ease with which she had destroyed lives, represented a darkness that even Paradise could not cleanse. As the sun sets over Santorini today, casting those same golden rays that once illuminated Lena and Adrian's final argument, we are left with questions that cut deeper than any investigation could reach. What transforms love into violence? What makes someone choose murder over honesty? And most importantly, what lessons can we extract from this tragedy to protect ourselves and the people we care about? First, secrets are relationship poison. Lena spent years building walls between herself and Adrian, brick by brick, lie by lie. Every stolen dollar created distance, every hidden truth erected barriers. By the time Adrian discovered her crimes, they were not husband and wife anymore. They were strangers, sharing a bed. And strangers are capable of terrible things. Visual, empty villa terrace at sunset. Peaceful but forever changed. Second, money stolen never delivers happiness. Lena robbed £12 million from innocent people, yet she still felt empty enough to risk everything rather than face consequences. Stolen wealth carries the weight of its victims. Every luxury purchase reminded her subconsciously of Harrison Whitfield dying alone, of families destroyed, of trust betrayed. Guilt is a debt that compounds daily, and eventually, it comes due. Third, Paradise cannot hide your past. Lena chose Santorini, thinking distance would provide safety. She believed beauty could wash away ugliness, that Paradise could offer redemption without repentance. But geography never changes character. Your choices follow you everywhere, even to the most beautiful places on Earth. Finally, truth always finds a way to surface. Detective Papadakis proved that lies, no matter how carefully constructed, leave traces, blood evidence, digital footprints, witness testimonies, human behavior patterns that trained eyes can read like books. Justice might move slowly, but it moves with the persistence of ocean waves, eventually wearing down even the strongest defenses.
Final CTA moment.
If this story opened your eyes to the destructive power of secrets and lies, subscribe right now and hit that notification bell. I need you to be part of this community of truth seekers. Comment below and tell me, what warning signs do you think Adrian should have noticed earlier? What would you have done differently? Visual. Camera pulls back to show the vast Aegean Sea, infinite and unchanging. As I leave you today, remember this. Even in paradise, even surrounded by beauty that takes your breath away, even when everything looks perfect from the outside, darkness can live in human hearts. The most dangerous person in your life might be the one sleeping next to you. Choose truth over comfort. Choose honesty over convenience. Choose justice over profit. Because in the end, paradise is not a place you visit. Paradise is what you create through the choices you make, the integrity you maintain, and the love you give without conditions. Remember, even in paradise, your secrets are never as buried as you think they are.